Welcome to Pacific Praise this morning. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sheldon Brown, the young adults pastor of Habourside Church. Sheldon, thanks for joining us this morning. My first question is, what village are you affiliated with and where did you grow up?
Village I'm affiliated with, my family's from Habourside, so I'm a half Niuean and half Samoan. I grew up in Auckland, New Zealand. I'm a Kiwi born and bred. Moved over to the States for a little bit in Phoenix, Arizona, and Los Angeles, California. Spent quite a few years there growing up and ended up back in New Zealand.
Awesome. Can you take us back to mum and dad? Why were they so mobile from country to country?
When I was younger, they always felt, it got to a point in their life where they felt called to ministry. They came across a place called Los Angeles Dream Center, and so they loved it so much when I was about 9 years old. And so they came home one day and just pretty much told me and my family, pack up, we're moving. And so we just grabbed our stuff. Within a week, we're out of the country, moving over to a foreign country where we don't know nobody at all. And then we're just kind of thrown into the deep end of what ministry looks like. The LA Dream Center is just, it's a place where we'll find the need to fill it. It's a place, a city of hope for the people who are struggling. And, it's a 24/7 facility where people are coming in, they live in the building for recovery purposes, for rehab, where 700 people live there currently, where people are coming in from homeless, from people struggling with transitional family housing, rescuing girls from human trafficking, guys coming out of, youth prison, rescuing guys out of the foster care system or aged out. So they do all these amazing things. They go, week to week outreaches into the streets of Los Angeles, and it was something that really captivated my parents' heart, and so they needed to be a part of it. They wanted to be a part of it. They felt God's call a part of it, and so they just decided to make the move, and our whole family went over. So, if anything, my upbringing from 9 years old up until where I am today, it's all been around that atmosphere of community, of transformation. Seeing, one block changed block by block, one family at a time, one house at a time, seeing it all change just from, a thing like Adopt a Lock, where they're just knocking on the doors and just loving on people and serving people, serving the community. So yeah, man, that's pretty much the reason why we traveled from New Zealand to the United States at a young age. Pretty much because, that's where God was kind of calling him to, and we ended up there, and yeah, it's been it was a great experience for me.
How did your mum and dad receive the call or come to know Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Saviour?
Oh, my family, we grew up in, typical PIC church, Presbyterian, and, they got saved at a meeting one day. They got invited to a Pentecostal meeting, so they went along. It was an Assemblies of God church, and then they got saved, and ever since then it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. Was there a moment in their life where, hey, there's got to be more to life than just living as they were? Yeah, definitely. You got to bear in mind, I was really young at the time, so I didn't really understand a lot of it. So it just kind of went from, my whole everything just changed for me in an instant. Went from typical island Polynesian Presbyterian church all the way to Pentecostal contemporary, simply because they felt a desire that they needed change. And yeah, so for me, man, they always kind of showed it in their actions, how things were differently. There's a higher purpose to our lives. The language that they started talking to us were differently. But, if anything, they've always showcased the love of Jesus throughout my entire life. If anything, it's just the sense of God's calling just became a lot stronger in their life. So in terms of identifying the exact time, I was really young, so I can't remember pinpointing the exact time, but I remember I was about 9 years old, and that was the time when my parents kind of really just made a decision in their life to pursue after God. How did that impact your life, and then how did you become a Christian? Being in that environment at such a young age, kind of 9 years old, getting dragged along to these outreaches and prisons. Getting dragged along to these outreaches from Skid Row in Los Angeles where, all you see is broken people and people struggling, looking for an answer. And, being able to see an impact like that at such a young age, it it wrecked me. It caused, that amount of exposure at such a young age caused an awakening in my own spirit, where even I was very young, I could identify that there was something that God was doing in the atmosphere, and that I couldn't run away from. I couldn't shake it. It was an unshakable feeling. As much as I've tried to run away from it in my life, that call of ministry, or that call of God that I've seen at such a young age has just chased me down every step of the way. So, I grew up. I've grown up around ministry life, and it's been my life, ever since I was about 9-10 years old, and it had a huge impact on me. And I got to a point in my teenage years where I tried to run away from it a little bit, but as much as when the call of God is so strong in your life, you can do whatever you can to get rid of it. But God has His way of kind of getting to you. And I got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. Like I couldn't help but want to pursue after God. I couldn't help but wanting to pursue after His calling. And I'm at a place now where it's just like I want to make an impact exactly how I've seen it ever since I was a kid. And I made a proper decision when I was about 9 years old. We were doing an Adopt-A-Block, which is like the community outreach program. We're doing it out on the streets, and they're kind of doing like a message, a salvation thing. Just try, there are a whole bunch of fun stuff to bring in the community. That are jumping castles, free food. Like I'm talking truckloads of free food, good stuff too. None of that rubbish that you get in like an expired pantry. But it was awesome stuff. All this kind of things that happening. They ended up with like a real salvation message, and I ended up giving my life to the Lord at about 9 years old, amongst guys who just got out of prison, a whole bunch of drug addicts, a bunch of guys who have just kind of probably just got out of many different addictions in their life. And if anything, I thought it was a vivid picture of what my life is supposed to be like today, going after those exact kind of people. As a 10-year-old kid lifting my hands up at the altar call amongst those same individuals. If anything, that could be a scary moment for anybody. But for me, it's just like, I felt like right then in that moment, and I didn't know what it meant back then, but now I do. It's like that's why I exist today, to reach those people, to go after the people that society has cast off, and just really be able to make a difference in this city and this nation, and in essence our globe. But for me, I've always kind of been around Christianity, but if I could find one place where to pinpoint, my decision, I'll base it right in that moment, and then everything after that is just been it's just been a move of God ever since. I tried to run away from it for a little while, but just like anything, when God's got a call in your life, it's done.